Ukraine will be a member of NATO in the future, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said on Thursday.
The Hungarian southern border no longer deals with migrants after removals by Serbian authorities. Israeli strikes across Lebanon killed at least 27 people on Wednesday, according to Lebanon's health ministry. In the southern city of Nabatea, at least 16 people were killed, including the city's mayor. Lebanon's caretaker prime minister accused Israel of intentionally targeting a municipal council meeting there to discuss relief efforts. Israel has ramped up its attacks on the country amid growing international criticism that it is targeting UN peacekeepers in the region. UNIFIL again said that Israel deliberately targeted its positions in an attack on its watchtower. Meanwhile, the humanitarian situation in northern Gaza remains dire as Israel's siege of the Jabalia refugee camp enters its 13th day. The top UN humanitarian official is accusing Israel of blocking the delivery of desperately needed aid to Gaza, saying there's barely any food left in the north.
During the first 2 weeks of October, just 1 out of 54 coordinated movements to the north via the Al-Rashid checkpoint was facilitated by Israeli authorities, while another 4 were impeded but eventually accomplished.
Following warnings from the U.S., Israel let in a limited amount of aid on Wednesday, but the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations called the progress insufficient.
Israel's military is looking into whether Hamas's top leader, Yahya Sinwar, was killed in a military operation in Gaza. Sinwar, who Israel accused of being the architect of the October the 7th surprise attack which killed 1,200 Israelis, was announced as Hamas's new head following the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh. The IDF said in a statement that at least 3 militants were killed in a building and that they were checking the possibility that Sinwar was amongst that number. European leaders meeting in Brussels are discussing the proposal of the European Commission to open deportation centres outside the EU borders. The Commission has lately embraced the ideas of the hard right on migration. The change in the Commission's mentality has pleased several countries. One of them is Greece, which has been accused by several NGOs of carrying out illegal returns.
The Pact for Migration and Asylum does not address the question of returns. We cannot accept the fact that we are not effective to deal with those who are not entitled to protection status in the European Union. I'm eager to find out more about the innovative solutions proposed by the Commission, and I'm happy about the fact that we recognize that we need to think out of the box.
One of the examples would be the return centre that Italy has recently opened in Albania. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has been one of the promoters of a meeting with several like-minded leaders, which was also attended by the President of the European Commission. But although few in number, there are also detractors, like Spain's Pedro Sanchez and Belgium's Alexander De Croo.
Je pense que toutes ces solutions de migration hub, comme on les appelle, dans le passé, ça n'a jamais montré que c'est très effectif et ça durerait très très cher. Ce qui fonctionne, c'est des accords avec des pays tiers.
Leaders are not expected to reach any agreement on migration at this summit.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky warned that North Korea supporting Russia would be a first step towards a world war. Zelensky claimed the country's intelligence services found evidence suggesting 10,000 North Korean troops were training to join Russian forces. It comes after Zelensky presented his victory plan to EU leaders at a high-level summit in Brussels.
We know about 10,000 soldiers of North Korea that they are preparing to fight against us. And this is the first step to a world war.
Zelensky said he received majority support from EU countries for his victory plan, which includes permission to fire long-range weapons into Russia. He emphasised the importance of receiving support from Western allies, but criticised that it often arrives slowly. Zelensky said the victory plan would result in an end to the war no later than next year. He also said he would like to present the document to Russia at a potential future peace summit.
For a year, Serbian authorities have been systematically evacuating the areas around the northern border with Hungary, collecting migrants and transporting them to camps in the Serbian cities of Kikinda and Preševo. Hundreds of illegal immigrants used to live in the barns of the Karas farm along the border fence near the town of Horgos, leaving at night to get through the barbed wire fences. But today, discarded energy drink cans and animal remains are the only signs that this place was once full of life. The roof has collapsed, the nylon sheeting protecting the windows has been ripped off, and you almost can't see the buildings through the weeds. Some of the locals, like Marta, are happy about the authorities' action. She says the area has become much safer.
Azok a kommandós autók egy hónapig még aztán itt voltak a izébe, akit csak lehetett, mindenkit összeszedtek. Egész utcába se látott senkit, mert nem mertek a népek kijönni.
A magyar belügyminisztérium még manapság is azt közli, hogy naponta több százan ostromolják a déli határt, de közben itt a horgosiak azt állítják, hogy ők már nagyon régóta nem találkoztak idegenekkel, és teljesen helyreállt a rend. Sőt, azok a buszok is eltűntek, amelyekkel a bevándorlókat szállították el a környékről.
The change in Horgos is visible. The last time Euronews was there, almost everything was closed and people were hardly seen in public spaces. But now the shops are open and children are playing in the streets.
There is still a long way to go before the final sentence, but this week's hearing will be crucial in the open arms trial involving League leader Matteo Salvini. After Italian prosecutors requested a 6-year prison sentence, his lawyer Giulia Bongiorno will present her closing argument, explaining why the former interior minister is innocent. A few days ago, Patriots for Europe's far-right leaders rallied in support of Salvini in Pontida. His supporters have collected signatures in his defense, and a group of League Party members plans to take to the streets in Palermo on Friday to show their support. We spoke to one of them.
Abbiamo deciso di accompagnarlo perché riteniamo che il processo sia un processo politico e quindi come partito politico riteniamo di far vedere agli italiani che il partito sostiene il nostro segretario federale Matteo Salvini e soprattutto far capire come spesso la magistratura strumentalizzi alcuni episodi a fini esclusivamente politici.
The former interior minister has been charged with kidnapping for refusing to allow 147 migrants rescued by the Spanish NGO Open Arms in 2019 to disembark in Lampedusa. Prosecutors argue that under the SAR Convention, anyone found in distress at sea must be assisted and provided with a place of safety. They also claim that the minister made the decision for his political advantage.
Noi assolutamente consideriamo questa un'assoluta provocazione. Noi pensiamo esattamente che Matteo Salvini ha esercitato un potere da ministro degli interni, un potere politico, tra l'altro condiviso dalle altre parti politiche che erano al governo con lui. Quindi l'assistenza è stata data, i minori sono stati varcati, quindi si vuole fare un processo al partito.
Matteo Salvini says he doesn't regret his actions and that he did it to defend the country. If convicted, he could be barred from holding government office. But it could take time for that to come into effect, as the League leader can decide to appeal the judge's decision. Giorgio Orlandi for Euronews in Rome.
Vice President Kamala Harris said she would not be a continuation from Biden's presidency in an interview with Brett Baier on Fox News. Even though Democrats currently hold the White House, Harris said she wants to turn the page by representing a new generation of leadership, one that isn't burdened by divisive rhetoric coming from Donald Trump.
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we have been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other.
Her nearly 30-minute sit-down with Bayer repeatedly grew heated, with the two talking over each other.
Citizenship
May I please finish?
Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the Senate,
I'm
and they
in the
didn't bring
middle
up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
It was Harris's first foray onto the network, which is popular with conservative viewers. Former One Direction member Liam Payne was found dead after he fell from a balcony in Argentina. Fans were quick to gather outside of the hotel in Buenos Aires to hold an impromptu vigil.
Todo esto es parte de mi infancia para mí. Yo crecí con esto, yo crecí con su música, yo crecí con la banda.
Police rushed to the hotel on Wednesday evening after receiving a phone call from the hotel manager. He warned them of a guest who may have been under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Payne had previously been vocal about his battle with alcoholism and posted a video in July last year saying he had been sober for 6 months after receiving treatment. The 31-year-old was one of the 5 members of One Direction who formed during the British singing competition The X Factor in 2010 after they had all auditioned individually. The band rose to fame and became one of the most iconic boy bands of their era before disbanding in 2016.